This week on the Brody File, a look at the evangelical voting problem in America. We go one-on-one with the man the Republican Party is counting on to help turn out the vote.
I tell pastors, we've worked hard to avoid policy for years. Policy's not avoiding us, and it's coming to the pulpit. And if there's no freedom of speech in the pulpit, there's no freedom of speech anywhere.
It's August in D.C., which means it's hot, and this Brody File show is hot too. We're next. And welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File. We are glad you're with us. Look, we begin this week with one of the biggest problems that currently exists in the evangelical community. It's one word: voting. Actually, it's three words: lack of voting. Folks, there are roughly 90 million Americans who claim to be born-again evangelical Christians in this country. Well, guess what? Only 30 million of them vote, so you do the math. Actually, we'll do the math. That's fine. We can do that here on the Brody File. That means 60 million evangelicals are not voting. We're not sure what they're doing instead. Maybe they're watching reruns of Fireproof, good movie. Or maybe they're preparing potluck dinners at the church. Brody File likes that. Maybe they're eating too much Chick-fil-A on the road. I don't know, but one thing they're not doing is voting. Well, the Republican Party is keenly aware that they need more evangelicals to engage in the voting process or they are in big trouble. And that's where this man comes in. Chad Connolly, not a guy looking for front page headlines, but behind the scenes, he's a key spoke in the GOP wheel. The Republican National Committee has brought on the former South Carolina Republican Party chairman to be their national outreach coordinator to millions of evangelicals nationwide. Connolly believes the Republican Party has to reconnect with them in order to win future elections. And we spoke to him one-on-one. Here's some of our conversation.
I think the party has had a credibility problem. It's not anybody's fault. It's part of politics. People don't like it. I'm on the deacon board, have been on the deacon board in my church. It's really no different. But there's they want to label everything as this or that or a political party. So I had to build some credibility and authenticity. Reince Priebus is the deal. I left the chairmanship of South Carolina because I believe in Chairman Priebus. I think he's got a vision for this. I think the all hands on deck thing is a big deal. I think that's the right approach. I think the conservative, faith-based message works. I think people understand it. I think when you build relationships and communicate that, people like it and they want to be a part of that. And so I've traveled all over the country, just meeting with faith leaders, pastors, priests, you name it, in every setting where people would stand still. I've spoken over 15,000 pastors now, as bigger groups as 2,500, and then of course a lot of one-on-ones. A couple levels. The first thing after that authenticity is our people, David, have been talked out of the arena. I'll give you this example. I really think the left, and maybe particularly the media, has been really good at saying, you Christians, boy, y'all do evangelism and missions, and my kids love that vacation Bible school, but you shouldn't be involved in politics or education. That would be a violation of the separation of church and state. And we get on our meek, turn the other cheek, Jesus,
right.
And we're good at it. And I think we're at a time in our nation's history that we better find our turn the tables over Jesus. If we're not righteously indignant and involved and engaged, I don't know where we're going to go from here. And so I tell pastors, we've worked hard to avoid policy for years. Policy's not avoiding us, and it's coming to the pulpit. And if there's no freedom of speech in the pulpit, there's no freedom of speech anywhere. And I think because they've been pushed out of the arena, they think I don't need to go vote. So I started researching those numbers from George Barna. Around 89 million people that would identify as born again or evangelical. 30.5 million of those voted in 2012. That means 60 million people who believe in the Bible and they believe in core values didn't even bother to vote. So they've been told that's political. In my Sunday school class for years, I've taught on biblical worldview, just the stuff that really changed my life. Dr. Noble's book, Understanding the Times, and Dr. LaHaye's book, Mind Siege, and boy, just really told me it's not Chad's view or David's view. What's God got to say about this? And so in God's worldview, voting's not political, it's spiritual. Registration to vote's not political, it's spiritual. Our voting is a witness and a testimony to the community of what we believe in. And that's how we get elected officials who reflect what we believe in. If there's 60 million of us not even voting, no wonder we're in a mess.
What about the argument? There are a lot of evangelicals that say, okay, the Democrats are off the reservation when it comes to social issues, but the Republicans, we hear this talk now, all of a sudden, the media says a lot of this, the inclusion, we got to be more inclusive, and that's, that's a toxic word for evangelicals. So what are you hearing around the country? Are people concerned that the Republicans are going to start to look at these polls like on same-sex marriage and go, you know what, politically, that's not a winner for us, so we'll ditch the issue?
Think about this. Chairman Priebus hired somebody to just go out and talk about this. The Republican Party is the natural home for people of faith. One of my most proud moments as a chairman was getting to put in the most pro-faith, pro-family, best platform ever put in Republican Party or political party history down in Tampa in 2012. We have nothing to be ashamed of. This is the place where God's got a home. We watch the other party boo God out of their convention pretty much. You're never going to make everybody agree. I got a wife and 4 kids. I can't get them to agree on a Whopper and a Big Mac. I've been in deacon meetings for years. I can't get deacons in my little First Baptist church to agree on everything. We're never going to find somebody who's 1,000,000% with us on everything. But I believe our ideas and conservative values and faith-based values, I believe those resonate with people. I believe they resonate with voters. I think they make sense to them, and I think that's why we're attractive. Maybe we haven't done a very good job of getting that message out there. It's part of what I told Rights. Rights, let me go talk to the churches. I don't, it doesn't matter where they live, where they're from, what they look like. If they've got a biblical basis, a biblical worldview, if they say they agree in that same Bible that I read every day, then I'm going to go talk to them, because those are our voters, and they ought to be voting, and they ought to be voting their values.
That is Chad Connolly here on the Brody File. All right, time now for the Brody File to opine on the issue. We call it the Brody File Commentary. Well, look, I want you to take a look at our culture today, our society today. It is one big mess. Traditional marriage is on the ropes. Abortion has killed tens of millions of unborn children in the last 40 years. On television today, you get filthy word after filthy word, and that's just on regular TV. And you've got Miley Cyrus twerking, the Kardashians are flaunting, Lady Gaga, appalling. Here's the point. What is the answer? Well, we know that God is in control, but that doesn't mean evangelicals should just sit home and do nothing about what they see in front of their eyes. Evangelicals have a responsibility to vote. Pastors have a responsibility to encourage their flocks to go vote and speak out boldly from the pulpit about the central moral issues of the day. Yes, voting is the patriotic thing to do, but for evangelicals, it really is more than that. It is the right and moral thing to do. God gives us free will. So here's the translation. Go vote. Folks, the fate of our culture is at stake. The fate of America is at stake. This country needs revival. And while politicians won't be the answer, God doesn't want us sitting on our hands waiting for church on Sunday. He wants us engaged. He wants us praying for a revival. And yes, He wants us to vote too. All right, look, before we head to break, I want to play you a clip. The Brody File working on a story with the new House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. We sat down with him and his wife, Judy, at their home in Bakersfield, California, where we talked policy, yes, but we also talked about this issue, the Judeo-Christian culture in America and their faith. Take a look at this clip. It's something we're working on here on the Brody File.
People are sympathetic to different things and different causes. But when you bring up Christian, there's no sympathy whatsoever. They do not think you should be able to have that belief. And it's not, I mean, you're not pushing that on someone else. It's your own belief. You're living it. But no, I've never seen it the way that it is now. I mean, I do think it's really scary, actually. I think that they don't want you to have the right to be a Christian.
You will see that in just a mere few weeks here on the Brody File. We're going to spice it up, make it look really cool and jazzy, snazzy, as my dad used to say. All right, we're back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody. All right, well, look, with big government at it again, this time the Obama administration may be actually giving up power. Well, it really could prove to be detrimental for people all over the world. And to dig deeper into this issue, we had to get a little help from Jenny in the B Block.
You go, girl.
David, you know, the U.S., with or without the help of Al Gore, invented the internet as a military function. Since it's been a commercial entity, the U.S. Department of Commerce has managed internet traffic and assigned website addresses. But now the Obama administration wants to hand over the keys to a multinational organization, a move that many fear will muzzle free speech around the world. America has always had a hand in the managing of the World Wide Web. Even conservatives who typically want to limit the role of government say it's an example of Washington doing something well.
It's a very relaxed control, which is why I think we've seen the internet grow to be an incredible voice of freedom, not just in the United States, but around the world.
In the late 90s, the Commerce Department formed a nonprofit agency called the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, or ICANN, which governs the system that assigns website addresses and directs internet traffic. We're talking about every email, every time that you search something on Google. I mean, we're talking about every transaction.
Sure, every transaction.
But following Edward Snowden's revelations about America's spying activities, the Obama administration is feeling international pressure to give away the authority to direct web traffic. Even the head of ICANN says everyone with an interest in the internet deserves a voice in the management of it as equal partners. But the big question is, if the internet isn't in U.S. hands, whose hands do we trust? China and Russia are waiting in the wings to fill the vacuum if the U.S. cedes control, and there's a great fear that the internet will eventually wind up in the hands of a UN committee called the International Telecommunications Union.
It's controlled by bad actors. In fact, they've now passed already a resolution through that will allow governments to shut off websites, and that won't be a violation of human rights.
Congress is considering two actions. One delays the transfer of control. Another requires congressional approval before the Obama administration can act. And there's bipartisan concern. Even former President Bill Clinton thinks the administration's plans are a bad idea.
A lot of people who've been trying to take this authority away from the United States wanted to do it for the sole purpose of cracking down on internet freedom and limiting it and having governments protect their backsides instead of empower their people.
Americans are also concerned. Nearly 120,000 people have signed this petition to keep the control of the internet in the land of the free. For the Brody File, I'm Jennifer Wishon.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, coming next, when it comes to the big Bible blockbusters, does biblical accuracy really matter to viewers? More on the Brody File next. And welcome back to the Brody File. All right, well, look, here we go again with someone being attacked for their views on traditional marriage. The CEO of Mozilla, Brendan Eich, stepped down last week after the controversy over a $1,000 donation that he made years ago to California's Proposition 8. Well, Proposition 8 was a state constitutional marriage amendment which passed in the California state elections in 2008, but a federal court eventually ruled it unconstitutional in 2010. Anyhow, when gay marriage advocates got wind of Eich's recent promotion to the CEO of Mozilla, they attacked his beliefs. Eich resigned amid the controversy. In an interview with the Guardian newspaper, this is what he says, quote, "I don't want to talk anymore about my personal beliefs because I kept them out of Mozilla all these 15 years we've been going. I don't believe they're relevant." You may have heard the big debate over the movie Noah. Should you see it? Should you stay home? Well, a lot of Christians are upset that the movie doesn't actually follow the true story of Noah in the Bible. Bible Gateway conducted a poll this week when Noah hit theaters. They found out that 60% of people actually do want Hollywood adaptations to stick closely to the scriptures. Another 28% said Bible stories are a good fit for the big screen, and it's okay for them to take some artistic license. And just 10% said Bible stories really need to be kept off the big screen. All right, when we come back, a spoof of Vladimir Putin between Sarah Palin and late-night host Jimmy Fallon. What's that all about? That story next. And welcome back. So we're mixing the latest in political news and pop culture. Amber Strong back with another edition of Poplitical.
This week on Pop Political, we're talking selfies. Selfies, that all-important picture you just have to get. No matter the time or the place. We've even gone as far as turning famous pictures into, you guessed it, selfies. And everyone's getting in on the action lately, even our politicians. So, we here at Pop Political had to pop the question, if you could take a picture with any politician, who would it be and why?
Abraham Lincoln, right?
Abraham Lincoln, okay. Why?
Because he was revolutionary and pretty much changed America.
That's a tough question. I would probably have to say Abraham Lincoln because of everything that he stood for and what he did for our country historically, you know?
Abraham Lincoln is a popular, so you did very well.
Did I get the answer right?
That's a good answer.
Right.
I would probably take a selfie with Jawaharlal Nehru. He was the first Prime Minister of India when he got independence, but only because I want to ask him a question. Why was he so political that he had to divide India into India and Pakistan? Yeah, that's it.
Bill Clinton.
William Jefferson Clinton, why?
Because he's a Georgetown grad, I went to Georgetown. I think it's a pretty cool connection. Nice to chat with him, talk about his experiences. He's also still pretty powerful today out of the office.
I like it. You know, he took a selfie with Jimmy Kimmel last week.
Yes, him and Hillary and Chelsea, yeah, in response to the Oscar selfie with Ellen.
Yeah, see, you're up on your pop culture and your politics.
Thank you very much.
You should host this show.
I don't want to take you out of a job, so.
So tweet me your answers at Amber C. Strong. All right, so it's the ultimate combination of politics and pop culture. Former presidential contender Rick Santorum is making movies. That's right, he is the CEO of Echo Light Studios. Take a look.
Well, we've done two productions since I've been CEO. One is The Christmas Candle, which was a beautiful film that came out at Christmas time, and we're really excited about it releasing to DVD and TV for this next Christmas, and there are lots of interest. You know, we had a limited release, so a lot of people wanted to see the film, couldn't see it. Now they're going to get their opportunity, and so we're excited about that. And then we have a movie on the Hallmark Movie Channel called The Redemption of Henry Myers, which is really Hallmark's sort of stepping out a little bit and doing something that's really straight down the line as sort of a faith story.
You're a dead man, Myers!
How long have I been here?
3 days. You were pretty near death when we found you. God must have something planned for you.
Now, if we could only figure out how to get Santorum to cast me in his next movie, or take a selfie with me, either one would work. Be sure to pick up your copy of his latest film, The Redemption of Henry Myers, in stores on June 10th. That's it for this week's Pop Political. David, back to you.
And thanks, Amber. By the way, that David Ortiz, President Obama's selfie, turned out to be part of a promotional campaign for Samsung that the president had no clue about, prompting the White House to say, perhaps maybe this will be the end of all selfies. All right, speaking of walking the line of politics and pop culture, it seems these days that no political career is complete without a stop by the late-night TV talk shows. Well, Sarah Palin is no stranger to the late-night couches, but we want you to check this out. This is a spoof of Vladimir Putin and Palin. Well, it's actually not Putin, it's late-night host Jimmy Fallon.
Right after he talked to Obama, Putin made another phone call, this time to someone who actually predicted his invasion of Ukraine back in 2008.
Hey, this is Sarah.
Hello, Miss Palin. It's me, Vladimir.
What are you doing calling me?
Well, I heard that back in 2008 you predicted that I would invade Ukraine. Is this true?
You betcha, Vlad.
You betcha, Vlad. I once invaded a country called You Betcha, Vlad.
My advice to you would be, you get those troops out of Ukraine right now.
Whoa, hey, Captain Buzzkill. It was a joke. But seriously, I could have used your predicting powers in Office March Madness pool. My bracket's totally busted. How's your bracket doing?
Oh, thanks for asking. Bracket's good. You know, he's going to be 6 this month.
Sarah Palin poking fun at herself. She really has a knack for those type of comedy bits. You know, maybe she's found her calling. Anyhow, this all leads us to this week's Brody File commentary. All right, look, here's a straight up question for you. Is Sarah Palin relevant? The answer is a bit complicated. Is she taken seriously as a politician by the mainstream media? No. But do they still pay attention to her every move? You betcha. So why is that exactly? Well, yes, part of it has to do with the fact that there is a certain carnival atmosphere surrounding how she goes about her business. As you can see, she's playing the flute there. I mean, she knows how to command an audience and entertain, but let's not forget for a moment that she still has a robust, dedicated following. And I'm not just talking about her millions of followers on Facebook and Twitter. I'm talking about how in certain congressional districts in the country, her word matters. Because an endorsement from Sarah Palin can make a difference for a candidate in a tight race. Also, let's be totally truthful here. As much as the mainstream media can't stand her, they listen to what she has to say. She has a megaphone. Liberals might call that a bit scary, but Palin has the power really to help shape the political conversation in America. And that's the dirty little secret liberals would rather not hear, but it is the truth. Back in a moment with an Oy vey moment of the week that you just can't sugarcoat. And we're back on the Brody File. Here's a question for you. Do you always know where you are? You know, the Brody File isn't always so sure where we are, and neither is Senator Dan Coates, because he is the star of this week's Oy vey moment of the week. Well, God bless Dan Coates. The senator from Indiana is a conservative guy, he's a Hoosier, but he also got a bit lost this week on Capitol Hill. He attended a hearing on the Hill for over an hour, and then, he was at the wrong hearing. Watch one of his aides slip him a note about the mix-up.
Locations, personnel, etc.
Undersecretary Cohn, I just wanted to...
I just got a note saying I'm at the wrong hearing.
Oh, okay.
I've got the right room number, but the wrong hearing. Fine, I'll go try to find out where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Now that's funny. Where am I? Where am I supposed to be? It also made us go oy-gavolt. By the way, afterwards, Coates had a little fun with the whole episode. This is what he tweeted, quote, "I think the Russians have been messing with my schedule." Hey, a little Cold War humor. Gotta like that. That does it for this week. Until next time, everybody, God bless. Have a great week.